What's going on, everyone? It's Nina Infinity. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about Justin Baldoni being a toxic person that's positively toxic. Yes, you heard that correct. I've done a couple videos now with regards to what's going on with the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni lawsuits, but I gotta say, there's just so much that happens every week, and I just don't have the time to unfortunately update you guys all the time. Now, there's a lot of other channels that do, so I figured I'll just do a video once in a blue moon when I feel like I need to say something about this lawsuit. Because as I said, there's stuff coming out every week, and I just can't, like, it's just too much. It's just too much information. But this new thing that dropped really just kind of made me pause. What? And that is this accusation. So, this whole positivity spin that we're going to get into in a second comes on the heels of Blake Lively hiring a former CIA agent to do crisis PR management for her, which is, I mean, it's hilarious on its own because most people are not really a fan of the CIA nowadays, and they're not really a fan of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds right now either. So it's just a really interesting team of people here that are getting together to try and destroy this man, Justin Baldoni, which is, I mean, birds of a feather, you know? The article goes on to say Lively's attempts to control the narrative. The hiring of Shapiro is only the latest move in what appears to be a broader effort by Team Lively to control the PR public perception. Just last week, her legal team pushed for a protective order to limit what information could be made public in the case. They specifically called out independent content creators like myself, but they didn't call me out, claiming that YouTube and TikTok commentators are unfairly amplifying Baldoni's side of the story. The article further states the bigger picture of Hollywood and crisis management, the hiring of the former intelligence official for a Hollywood PR crisis highlights how high the stakes are in this legal battle. Lively's reputation is taking a serious hit, and studios are already showing signs of distancing themselves. Amazon's unusual decision to block engagement from her movie's trailer suggests that the image problem is affecting her career. With multiple lawsuits still unfolding, the damage to Lively's public standing may only continue to grow, especially if her crisis management efforts continue to backfire, which, again, it seems to be doing just that. Because just last week, another hit piece came out against Justin Baldoni from the LA Times. And this article here by the New York Post kind of talks about this. And this really caught my attention. So, Justin Baldoni accused of toxic positivity by former employees amid Blake Lively lawsuit. It felt phony. Former employees at Justin Baldoni's company have accused him of performing toxic positivity and evangelizing his Baha'i faith in the workplace. So this automatically gave me pause because I am Persian. And so I'm a little bit familiar with the Baha'i faith as it originates from Iran, Persia. And it's a very interesting faith. And I actually had a little bit of a discussion about it with my mom. And so, to kind of let you know about a little bit of what it's about, it's basically, long story short, the faith is a very unknown kind of practice of religious faith based on a very ancient person named Sayyid Ali Muhammad, claimed to be the hidden Imam, the Mehdi, or so you will. He's called Bab. He basically came after Muhammad. That's what he claimed. And the people who started to follow him were not very well liked. That this even before the Islamic Republic took over Iran, the Baha'i faith was not very popular amongst Iranians and people in that region. And so they were kind of practicing on the down low, and it was a very progressive religion for its time. If you look it up on Wikipedia, it will say this: the Baha'i teachings are based on a premiere that there is a God who reveals his will to humanity in a progressive manner. In the Baha'i view, each of the great religions introduced by God's messengers, such as Moses, Abraham, Krishna, Lao Tzu, the Buddha, and Jesus Christ, Muhammad, and so on and so forth, represent successive stages in the spiritual development of civilization. Baha'is believe that Baha'u'llah was the most recent of these messengers and that his teachings were geared towards the new moral and spiritual challenges of our time. Baha'i is often used the term progressive revelation, meaning that God reveals himself to humanity progressively as we mature and are able to understand God's purpose in creating humanity. And their social principles are the unity of humanity, the independent and individual search for the truth, the unity of all religions, the harmony between religion and science, universal education, equality between men and women, the elimination of all forms of prejudice, eliminating extreme poverty and wealth, a universal elixir language, world peace based on common legislation, based on social justice. So as I said, it's a very progressive religion even for back then, and or I should say especially for back then, and even before the Islamic Revolution. Again, most people were not really down with what they were offering at the time. And so it was unknown. And most people, especially after the Islamic Revolution, were driven out. The Baha'is were driven out. They were scared to come forward because they believed that there was another prophet after Muhammad. They are persona non grata. They're not allowed to say that. It's kind of dangerous, especially in Islam. Now, all this to say, I find it interesting that Justin Baldoni practices the Baha'i faith because it doesn't quite seem like a guy who is looking down on people. From the things that I saw of him, even before I knew that he was following the Baha'i religion, he seemed like a very spiritual guy from his interviews, and he just seemed like a spiritual person in general. And now it's starting to kind of make sense why he came off so spiritual. It's because he is of the faith of the Baha'i. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's like as if this article and the LA Times and I guess the CIA guy, that this is what he could come up with, that this guy's Baha'i, he's weird, he likes positivity. So the article goes on to say that these claims were published on the Los Angeles Times profile. And one person who worked with Baldoni's company, Wayfair Studios, told the outlet that Baldoni's bright demeanor felt insincere. It was constant positivity all the time. I would say toxic positivity. The ex employee said, I'm always a little dubious of people who advertise themselves as disruptors of the status quo or quote unquote good people. It felt phony. Now, again, I have to take a pause here and let you know that I am one of those positive people. Now, if you're new to this channel, you may or may not know that I do a show called Infinite Hope every week. I've been doing it for over 4 years. And a lot of people are confused by why I do this show because I also have my Wednesday show where I talk about crazy stuff in the clown world that we live in. And it's been going on since COVID. And I started doing it because when we were during COVID at the height of it, I felt like the world was just way too negative and I was feeling depressed. And so I started to do the show because I wanted to remind people that there's still good things going on in the world, even in the darkest of times. And because I believe that we need to focus on objective reality. And so usually when you have objective reality seems very negative most of the time because well, negative things happen, whether you're talking about politics or whether you're talking about natural disasters or whether you're talking about anything, even interpersonal things like somebody going through cancer or something like that. Negative things happen to us all the time. That's objective reality. But what's also part of objective reality is that good things happen all the time, that there's good humans out there, what I call good humans, when people do good things, when people choose kindness before they choose to be mean, or when people look at the cup half full. I talk about this all the time on my show. I welcome you to come join me on there. And I also have a new channel for it actually called Good News Infinite Hope, where I drop daily doses of good news because I want to remind you guys again that there's positivity going on out there all the time. Now, I've been told, why do you do this? And the reason I do this is because of what I just explained. And I feel like Justin Baldoni is the same kind of person because here he is working on a movie about one of the darkest things in our world, domestic violence. It Ends With Us is about domestic violence. So when he's working on that and he's showing you a very dark part of this world, I feel like the other part of him, the spiritual part of him, wants to also remind you that there's still good things going on out there and there's still people, good people trying to do good things. And therefore, that's part of his religious faith. Now, I don't know how this faith came into being in this process. But actually, another article went a little bit deeper into the quote, and I'm going to bring that up here. So, this one is from Yahoo Entertainment, but from The Blast. In the Los Angeles Times feature, one of his former employees at the Wayfair Studios raised eyebrows in his charitable gestures, such as filming himself giving clothes to a homeless man or asking employees to sign their emails with the phrase, "so much love." Now, I don't know how this kind of equates to him being a Baha'i. I'm not really sure how that works at all because I don't think this is a religious saying to say something like this. I don't believe that it has anything to do with his faith, but let's go on. It was constant positivity all the time. We just read this. I would say toxic positivity. Some former colleagues spoke to his character, suggesting that the 41-year-old actor director gives off a pattern of performative virtue and power plays that, in their view, conflicted with their ideals that he professed to uphold.
It's been about a hand up, always. So it's not about the clothes or the food. You can't end the homelessness epidemic by just giving people things. The only thing that can end it is by giving people love. So it's about one-on-one connection and building a relationship.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my brother, you're crying. Why are you crying?
It's just happy tears. I'm a crybaby. I am. I really am. I've been here every time they come. I'm here.
I'm not letting him out of my sight. So we're going to get him a cell phone today so that he can answer my phone calls.
Justin is an angel. That's what I look at now. You know, everybody needs an angel. Everybody needs someone they can go to and talk to. That's why we keep ourselves closed up and stay to ourselves, because there's nobody to hear us. Say praise God to see a man to come out here and give his heart.
It feels like Justin Baldoni is genuinely a good person. And when you're surrounded with fake people who don't understand what it means to be an actually good person, being nice or being welcoming makes them feel uncomfortable. That usually is the case with a lot of narcissistic people who just don't have that light inside of them. They feel uncomfortable around people who are genuine and nice, and they because there's it's an alien behavior towards them. Like they don't get it. They kind of get the ick. You know how sometimes we get the ick from, I don't know, creepy people? They get the ick from people who actually have some sort of, you know, a soul, I guess, if you will, inside of them. They're like, oh, this guy's kind of weird. But that's because they are usually dead inside. And so I feel like this is like a bit of projection going on with whoever it is, because it feels like no matter what you do, you're going to lose anyway. What? You're feeding homeless people and you're making content about yourself being a nice person and doing nice things. Well, gee golly, lock this guy up. The very interesting thing about all of this is that this whole thing started out with Justin Baldoni being painted as one of the most heinous abusers. This guy is sexually abused Blake Lively. This guy is just a horrendous individual that made her feel uncomfortable. And to a point now where they had to go and hire a CIA guy to come up with the worst thing that they could possibly find about him. And what they found was that he was a nice guy. And somehow they're trying to spin that into this being toxic. Look, we started out with sexual harassment, people, and now we're at a place where being too nice is getting you canceled. I don't know what Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are thinking. I just don't understand how their brain works, because as much as I want to understand and think I understand the narcissistic brain, every time I get shocked and surprised with the logic, or I guess lack thereof, that goes to understanding how they function. I don't get it. And I guess it comes down to projection, because these people really feel like are dead inside. And so they just project that onto Justin Baldoni, which is insane. Going back to this, it goes on to say, they keep talking about Baldoni lively battle as David and Goliath, but that's just not my experience, said one former colleague who preferred to remain anonymous for fear of being drawn into litigation. I bet. With Brian Friedman around, yeah, I'd be scared too. The ex colleague continued, Justin has a lot of power and a lot of money, and he is not afraid to use them to get his way. We need allies, but we need allies whose personal and business dealings align with who they say they are. And then going back to the New York Post articles, it goes on to say, however, other Wayfair vets had positive impressions from their experience with the company, saying he is highly creative and in tune with his spiritual side. What was I saying before? He's in tune with his spiritual side. Baldoni's former personal and executive assistant, Melissa Ames, told the LA Times he has a heart of helping others. Working at Wayfair was one of the best times of my life. Boy, he just, I mean, this guy sounds awful. Seriously, lock this guy up. Seriously, you got to lock him up. He's awful. Awful. How is he able to get away with this toxicity? Before it ends with a scandal, Baldoni built a personal brand based on self-betterment. The actor co-founded the Skid Row Carnival of Love in 2014, an event aimed at supporting the unhoused in Los Angeles. In 2021, he released Man Enough: Undefining My Masculinity, a book that challenges traditional ideas of masculinity, and started a podcast under the same name. My God, lock this guy up. I mean, his biggest crime might be that he's too nice and he's a male feminist. Like, seriously, lock this guy up. A spokesperson for Baldoni and Waver responded to the allegations, telling the Post that there have never been any reported complaints regarding the workplace culture or any communication issues regarding the platforms of its founders. If any guidance was ever provided to employees of how to conduct their written correspondence, it was to ensure that activities of its employees remained professional and aligned with the ethos of the company. Wayfair believes that joy and positivity are the essence of good work, and they stand by this statement. This story just gets more ridiculous and ridiculous by the day. Because, like I said, we started out with sexual harassment. We are now at toxic positivity, people. This is, I mean, I don't know where we're going to go next, but settle. Blake and Ryan, settle this thing. Just make it go away. You are just going to look worse and worse and worse than you already do. It's not going to end well. None of this is going to end well. If you enjoy the video, make sure you smash a like, share the video, and subscribe if you're new here. And you know what? Come to my good news show on Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern and let yourself soak in the positivity for a change, because there are still good things going on out there, and good humans and cute animals and all the good things. So until next time, choose kindness. Bye.